My guest today is one of the persons who has been the most on the podcast, and he's back, but this time he is alone, and he's not here to recap anything or predict stuff. Not long ago, we heard the news that Scotsman was no longer in a new era. Many has wondered, where is the next home for Scotsman? And today, he is ready to break the news for all of you who's listening to this podcast. But before we get into the breaking of the news with a new team, for the people that haven't watched the 4 episodes or have forgotten who you are, can you tell them who are you really?
Oh, people have forgotten who I am. Oh my god! But I'm Scotsman. I was obviously previously a player for a new era for about 2.5 years. Recently became teamless, as NMD said. I also stream. I've been streaming, getting close to a year now. But primarily a player. I'm kind of getting closer to the top level, going to LANs and things like that. And like I've been saying, I've been recording and streaming a lot of matches as well.
Yeah. And even though you have been on the podcast 4 times already, I've not asked you, how did you join Trackmania? What was the reason why you joined? Because you joined kind of late, as you mentioned.
Well, it's a bit of a weird one. Like, I've been in Trackmania since 2007 or 2008, so I'm an old-time quote-unquote player, but I only kind of figured and got into the pro scene kind of the end of 2015. That was a kind of a bit of a long story in itself. Basically, I had a kind of I'll give the kind of short version of it. Basically, we had basically I'd kind of figured within the family that we would go for, sorry, they were going to support me in going for, because I wanted to go for some sort of kind of esport related thing. I wasn't really sure in what game I wanted to go into at the time, but they basically came in and says to me, because it was getting to the point, I believe I'd just finished college at the time, or school, I can't remember, it's too many years, my brain's getting foggy, I'm getting old, but they came to me and said, how realistic is it, do you think you will actually be able to, become one of the best at whatever game, like compete in esport and stuff like that? And I thought it was pretty realistic, so I was good at a few games and stuff like that, but they says to us, go support it, we'll support you, we'll help you out, whatever. And so that kind of triggered, along with a few other things, to me actually seeking out, like, I looked into all the Counter-Strike stuff, I looked into a few other games like Gran Turismo, because I used to be really good at that, and I thought to myself, I'm actually going to take it seriously now, I'm going to look into what I can do to get better as a player, what competitions I can get into, and the one that fit me the most was Trackmania. So I seeked everything out, kind of summer of 2015, and kind of jumped in at the deep end, started training ESL and stuff like that, and found myself a team. And that was A&E in end of September 2015. So that's how I found myself in the competitive scene, so to speak.
Huh. What was the reason why you picked Trackmania instead of CS, as you talked about?
Well, first of all, I realised pretty early in CS that there was quite a high skill gap, and I probably wasn't going to be able to do that for quite a long time. And I'd figured that game's a bit harder to get into anyway. I mean, there's a lot going on with stuff like that. But for me, being Trackmania since 2007, 2008, I thought I was good at it. Like, I was good at the kind of styles that I used to play. Again, I never used to play tech, full speed, dart, anything like that. It was just a kind of, random maps, so to speak. And I thought, I'm good at them. I'm sure I can be really good at Trackmania. And boy, did I get a surprise when I came in and see how fast the tech players were. But Trackmania, it was easier for me to get into. I already had a few friends in the community I was part of, and I just thought it was the best fit with the style of game it was, really.
Yeah. And it is sort of, even though it's the same game as Trackmania, I would say that it's different part of the community. Being a casual player, so you are part of one community and might not know too much about the esports side of it. How was it to get into the esports side of Trackmania? Was it easy to get inside the community?
Well, it was easy to get inside at least a team. I mean, that was an easier part, because on the servers I used to play on, there was a A&E player, Rebellion, and I've recognised the A&E tag. I mean, despite me not actually knowing about the scene before, the A&E tag is one of them I remembered seeing, like, what that was, I remember, like RTA, Führer, and some of them I remember of people being, the top deadies in the tracks I was playing and things like that. But getting into the community took a little bit of time, because there was no familiar faces from the casual side of things. All the casual players I was playing in, they were just, community groups. They never played any scrims, any matches, anything like that. So I didn't really have any familiar faces. The only one I actually had was Link, from currently of PKD, as he used to play in the he used to play in the server I was playing on. I believe, a kind of fun fact, Link stole my first ever Deddy 1, which I still remember to this day, and I still bring it up whenever I encounter him on matches. I kind of rib him with that. But getting in the community was a bit hard, but I mean, I've always been a kind of open guy, open to talk to people. I'm not necessarily shy in approaching people unless it's necessarily things like lands, but that's a whole different point. But yeah, I found it relatively easy once I'd found my footing within the team to branch out and start talking to people in other teams.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that you're a well-known person in the community now. But let's get into it. Not many weeks ago, you left a new era that was your first team and the team you was in for 2.5 years. And you also were a team leader at the end of it, at least. Before we announce the new team, can you tell us why did you end up leaving the old team in a new era?
So again, that's quite a long story. I mean, I'd been the leader in A&E roughly from, well, not the leader, of course, we've got an admin team and there's been a lot of admins in there that have came and went and things like that. So I became an admin in the start of 2016. So I hadn't been in a team for that long, but 3-4 months, maybe a tiny bit longer before I was offering to help and things like that. But as the longer it kind of went within the admin team, the more and more the kind of people who initially brought me into the admin team had less time for the game. So it resulted in me and another player, Savicia. He was another admin at the time. We had a lot more responsibilities to go on as time went on. I was originally a Team 2 player at the time, but the admin who was in charge of Team 1, that was Noops, after... I'll be honest, we had a few arguments, we had a few differences, and it ended up in Noops leaving the team. But that then resulted in, when I was becoming better as a player as well, I transitioned into Team 1 and I also needed to take the responsibility for Team 1. So how that kind of affected my decision to leave was after another 2 years of being the leader of the team. Savicia left about a year later, so I was kind of the sole person in charge for the competitive side of A&E. And of course, a lot of leaders like some Mass, and although they have their kind of helpers like second in charge and stuff like that, but for a lot of the time I was kind of doing a lot of it on my own with some support from the other members of the admin team, taking care of teams 2 and things like that. But it got a bit stressful after a while, and I noticed it was impacting my performance. I wasn't playing as well. I was spending my Sundays kind of chasing after people, like who's going to be ready, who's trained, who's even going to be there. And A&E, as the team we're a more community-based team. We're more laid back and things like that. So that means as if people weren't really pressured to we need to sort everything out days and days before. We weren't that kind of team. It was just more laid back. But as a result of that, it put a lot of pressure on me in match day if things weren't going exactly to plan, as I needed to contact people, which resulted in me, not being able to qualify for matches, or when I did play in matches, I was, I had a lot of things on my mind, I was stressed and things like that. So it ended up getting to the point where I came into Trackmania, as I said, to be the best, to be one of the best in the esport, to get properly into the esports scene. And I felt being a leader of the team was holding me back. I was having too much other stuff on my mind. So it got to the point where I eventually just said to myself, I actually said it about a year ago, that I wanted to move on. I wanted to focus on me as a player. The teams I was actually mentioning to go as part of XS when XS was still as part of a team, and a day later they disbanded from team competitions, which is a bit of bad luck. But had that actually happened, I wouldn't have even been in A&E for the past year, which is a bit of a thing. But we tried a lot of different things. A few new people came in, like Easy came in, gave me a lot of help, hence why you would have seen we left together and we joined a new team together. But it just got a bit too stressful, and it kind of distracted me from what my original goal was, and I felt it was about time for me to do what was best for me. So that's why I ended up taking that decision.
So it all comes down to, like you said, joining the esports side of Trackmania to become the best player in the game. And you will say that being team leader and doing all the parts that is required to be a team leader it stops the chance to be better player yourself. Or
Yeah, exactly. The thing is with being a team leader is some people can manage it and play at the same time, but we've seen there's not many team leaders out there who can say they're the best in their team, which I don't think is a fair reflection of the people who are team leaders. I mean, example, you look at Harney. Harney was a fantastic player in THE. One of the, I remember looking at him thinking he's one of the ones that is going to make it to the top. Not necessarily to say he's not one of the best players in the world, but I feel as if his progress has slowed down as a result of him being a venture leader. If I can draw a parallel between that and him being a team leader, I'm not sure if that is the case. Maybe if you would comment on that at all, but at least that has been the same in my sense of things, is that it's very hard to balance the two, as in taking care of a team, all the responsibilities that go with that, but still being able to focus and perform extremely well on a personal level. I found it extremely different to balance the two, maybe perhaps as a result of the kind of team A&E was, or maybe just the kind of circumstances that came along with that, but I didn't feel it was going to continue to be possible for me to focus on being a leader and going along with my goal to get better and better and better and better.
Before we close the chapter of A New Era, is there any moments or story you want to bring up from your time in A New Era?
Well, the best stories from A New Era is I've mentioned it a few times in my stream and things like that, but the thing about A New Era, as much as, in some cases I had my differences with some of the people, especially the admins, when we're deciding what was the way that was best to go forward with the team, as of course A&E's been around for a very long time. I believe it's the end of 2007 or 2008, so it's been one of the oldest teams that is currently in the scene. So of course, with going forward in that, I look back on when we went on meetings together. So I don't know if a lot of people know about this, but we actually had massive kind of team meetings in real life. We had one in the Netherlands where about, I think, 13 people went to it or something like that. We had people at the likes of Marley and Nissa coming in from Norway. We had a lot of Germans coming in. Of course, myself from Scotland. We had so much people coming in, which I thought was a really fantastic representation of what A&E was, and it was a really strong community with people who are willing to, travel such distances just to meet people they've only spoke to online, We also had another meeting in Vienna last year in kind of September, October, I believe it was, and we had fantastic times together. And, we went out, we had good times, we went bowling, we done all the kind of stuff we done together. Of course, me, Mathix and Dutchy, when we were all still in A&E, we had a massive road trip to go to GA. That was like a 13-14 hour drive or something like that. So not many particular stories, just memories I like to reflect upon and kind of look back on as the positive time for when I was within the team.
Let's get into it. Let's break some news here at the Trackmania podcast. What team have you ended up with, and why did you end up at that team?
So we have ended up in Molotovs and Marshmallows. M&M Gaming was the preferred destination for myself. It was my kind of primary preference when I was looking into it. The reason for it, I mean, a lot of the teams who offered me, I have friends in all of them, so that wasn't necessarily a deciding factor for me. I knew wherever I would go because, like you said earlier, I'm a bit more well known in the community now. I've got friends, people I enjoy playing with and talking to, and pretty much every team there is in Trackmania, so that wasn't really a deciding factor for me. More looking into the fact that if I'm looking at the organisational side of things, M&M kind of, not necessarily the actual org itself, but I mean M&M kind of fits my pace perfectly, as in, don't mean, game pace, I mean like the fact that they're a serious team. They're not completely like, I'm trying to think, absolute Nazis, so to speak, when it comes to, players need to do this, need to do that, and when you go into their team, you're signed down to this, you're signed down to that. They were a very competitive team and a very strong team, but they were a strong community as well, which goes to show that they've stayed together and they've had such a strong player base for such a long time. So plus being a UK based organisation as well was a bit of a bonus, but that's what kind of enticed me to go towards there, as they just kind of had that +1 with balancing both the competitive nature that I wanted to be a part of as a player this time, instead of, you know, trying to force A&E to be a competitive team. So it fits that nature, as well as having a good strong community, which so it's not as if I'm going into a team that's going to be fully serious and I'm going to miss being as part of a community as A&E. I'm still going to have that when I'm going to M&M, I believe.
You joined kind of newly. I'm not sure you know everything that's going to happen, but are you going to get support for going to Gaming Winterfest and Games Assembly, which you attended as a player this year?
Well, as we've not heard concrete information on that, I guess that's discussions that are to be had, because it's difficult at this time because we've just passed our main two lands, so the discussions for that with the team, I'm sure, are not at an advanced stage, since it's one of those kind of ones where, you know, it's kind of hard to plan for an event which is like 10 months away kind of thing. But at least I'll get what I always wanted, was a lovely shirt with my name on it, so that'll be fine. You know, my bases are covered. But I was never the kind of player to decide based upon what kind of support I was going anyway, as people would have seen. I mean, I went to GA last year. I paid for that all myself, you know. I tried to go to GWF this year. I paid for that myself, same with going to GA, although that had its own issues. But, you know, I don't have a problem with paying for it myself, even if the org doesn't cover it. If they support me, fine, you know, that's great, that's a bonus for me, but that's not why I joined the team. But to answer the question directly, I'm not sure. We'll see, basically. We'll see when we get there.
Yeah, and as a player who has never been in a situation like you, and because I'm not having the skill level, can you tell us how is the sort of process in getting a new team? Are you looking for every option available, or are you going with the first and best one?
Well, my specific process in this is I discussed with Easy, because Easy, since he joined A&E, was an absolute privilege to have in the team. He was always active, and the main part that I needed in A&E is it was helping me out as an admin. He was taking a lot of responsibility and trying to help me enjoy my Sundays more for match days going forward, hence why, as I said, we went together. So when it was announced through the transfer news Discord, and I believe I posted some stuff on social media, when we announced it, we decided ourselves that we'll see who's interested in us, as I felt it would be a poor reflection if we are approaching everyone. We'd more like to see who actually wants us as a part of their team, you know, who would actually, you know, feel fit to approach us. So we just announced it on Sunday. We spoke to a few people, like of course Speedy, M&M came to approach me, and a few others came to approach me and things like that. So we decided we'd take the week after we announced it. So we made a final decision yesterday, but we took the week going forward to give everyone plenty of time, you know, the people to see the news, if anyone wanted to have us a part of their team, and you know, what kind of, you know, so we could have our discussions with them. But yeah, mostly it was us fielding offers, basically. Everyone who wanted us a part of their team, they came and spoke to us, and then we decided between each other what we thought would be best based upon our discussions with people, what we knew about the teams, what we knew about the people within those teams, and we made sure that where we were going we were both satisfied with. So at the end of the day, it just ended up that like I said, we took a look at all the offers on the table on the Sunday, discussed what was best for us, and then we ended up telling Speedy that M&M won. They captured the two of us, but yeah.
Yeah. And as you said, there were many teams offering you, or multiple teams. And as you said also that you wanted to join a team with your player from a new era in Easy. Did you both agree on M&M being the best new team, or were you discussing back and forth if another team was better?
Well, there was a few teams in the discussion. I mean, I suppose those people know who they are, but that approached us, and we knew there was certainly an option. When M&M first approached us, I felt like that was the best fit for me as a player anyway. That was kind of as I said, my primary preference going into things. Pardon me. But the Easy as well, he was thinking highly of M&M, so they were certainly a good option for him. With some of the other teams with organisational support and things like that came in, we decided them being, you know, it was kind of between one or the other, or one or two others, but by the end of things we were completely united in our decision. We both recognised that M&M would have been the best option for us, so you know, it was kind of like that initially from the start. As I said, there was a few others in the discussion, but pretty much it always was going to be M&M unless we had quite a hell of another offer, so to speak. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was some others that were close that prevented very good offers for us, but I mean, like I said, M&M was always my preference.
Yeah, so you actually agreed on something. It's not like when you are in a relationship and the girl always picks it and the guy just has to say, I agree.
Oh yes, an equal relationship. You know, we've got that down. There's not going to be a stormy divorce going over which team we're going to. And there was no problem with that. And we made sure that it's not just going to be one person saying, right, I want, like, say me example saying I wanted to go to M&M, and then it's going to cause a problem. Like we would go through the pros and cons of each team we were wanting to go to for both of us. Like for example, if there was a region lock team approaching Easy, as he's German, I understand a lot of there's a few teams that have German backgrounds, then of course a clear con of that is he coming with me, that, you know, there's going to be a bit of a struggle for me to integrate into that team. So we made decisions as one mind, so to speak.
Yeah, and you said that you want to get a better player yourself, and the best tournament out there for a solo player is the Trackmania Pro League. You took part in Season 2 at least, and we have the Season 3 qualifiers coming up. As we look right now, the event will only get bigger and bigger. There are some rumors about an offline event in Paris around November, and the prize pool of 3,000 euros. Can you tell us, how would you describe your run at Trackmania Pro League so far?
Well, my run at Trackmania Pro League is funny, considering I've participated in both seasons yet not actually qualified for any of them. I certainly hope that changes going forward. I'm able to participate in the first two qualifiers. It's on the GA map pack, which I have practiced and I have trained, so I really have absolutely no excuses this time. I'm reaching a higher level as a player, certainly than I was thanks to Trackmania Pro League. But as my run through it, Trackmania Pro League Season 1, I was a bit lost, you know. GA had been my, GA 2017, had been my only event where I'd ever experienced that kind of format, you know, 1v1v1v1, you know, cars on, things like that, cup mode. I hadn't really experienced that before. I hadn't really experienced finalist mode and things like that. So that's why I was so enthusiastic to participate in Season 1. I got in after week 4 or match day 4, as I believe Sky dropped out. And like I said, I was focused throughout then, as I might have been getting smashed in a few matches, but my priority was to improve as a player and to keep moving onwards and upwards through Trackmania Pro League. I believe I finished, I think it was joint last or something like that in the second league. But again, through Season 2, the priority was the same. I was in the qualifiers for that, and I was expecting going into it, because I thought with it being only the Premier League that was being represented, there'd be a lot of players going for it. It'd be quite a high level, and I thought, right, I'll try and get myself by the time attack seed and maybe get the quarterfinal and see what happened. Because, you know, I was a bit pessimistic after my performance in Season 1, finishing bottom of, you know, second league. It's definitely not ideal, but we went into Season 2 qualifications, tried to qualify there. I actually ended up winning my quarterfinal, or I think I might have, I did win my quarterfinal against Lumar. My semi-final, I actually did manage to win pretty convincingly. At that point, I'm thinking, yeah, you know, we can do this, no problem. But at that point, I believe I'd been playing a TMM match just before that, and then the Trackmania Pro League qualifiers had been played for about 6 hours or something like that. And yeah, the excuses are coming out in the podcast. It has to happen, guys. But I got into the final and I just snapped. Like, you know, I was running absolutely zero good times. I was crashing all the time, and I couldn't get it together. I started horribly. Like after 2 maps, I had like 20 points or something like that, and I was just soul destroying. Like performing so well in the quarter and semi-finals, and then just getting smashed in the finals. And not necessarily because the level was much higher. It was just that I was playing much worse. But eventually, Royal had to step down. So he was already qualified, so I managed to get a place in there as a replacement because I got 3rd in my match in the qualifier. So, I mean, kind of rocky road to get part of the TMPL. You know, the Season 2, again, you know, I was getting not the best results, at least early on and into the mid of that season, but at the end I picked up, started getting some good results, and I think that was a reflection of my improvement through both seasons. So hopefully onwards and upwards, hopefully we actually qualify properly for Season 3. I have my doubts with it being only the first 2 qualifiers I'm participating in. I've took a look at the players and I'm like, maybe a bit of the fear coming out, but But I've got the faith. I believe in it. I believe I'll be able to qualify for season 3.
Yeah, looking at the players, who are your top contenders, and how would you say your chances are against those players?
Oh, so we've got my man Groovy Potts, Omnipots. He's of course 3rd place in Gamers Assembly, so I've got him to watch out for. We've got Dutchy, we've got him to watch out for. I can't remember the exact list, but then we've got players who I've not played against ever, or in the TMPL I've not really had my chance to size up against, but I know they're fantastic players like Beat. He's signed up for the qualifiers at least. We've got some other fantastic players like Alexor, who I went up against once in season 1, and a good few other players. Easy, Complex, my former team, well of course Easy my current teammate, Complex my former teammate. They're going into Silver, my opponent at GA. So we've got a lot of players who I know will be very strong challenges, Papu, you know, Tom and things like that from G6. So I do have confidence in my own level of performance, as I know I did perform well at GA, so I certainly can play well on these maps, but I guess it does depend on how trained these guys are, and I suppose what version of me shows up.
Yeah, and if you qualify into the Trackmania Pro League Season 3 and make it into the playoffs, we have rumors about the playoffs in the offline event in Paris. A new trip to Paris. What do you think about that? And if you go, do we need to call CC again?
Yeah, I might need to call CC again. I'm dreading going back to France. Like, I'm going to be researching this like 4 months in advance, like before I've even qualified for the playoffs. Just like, oh, is there strikes there? What's the weather reports in 5 months? You know what I mean? Like, oh, but hopefully I don't need to resort on relying once again upon the Trackmania community as I did have to so heavily in GA. But definitely I'll be trying to plan it as best I can, and you know, I didn't even leave anything to the last minute in GA. That was just horrible circumstance coming in, but yeah, definitely hope we'll be planning that a lot better going forward, leaving a lot less to chance than I did before. Otherwise, you know, I will have to, I don't know, drive to GA or something like that, get the Eurotunnel just to give as little possibility as possible for failure. But yeah, hopefully no issues if I do actually manage to get there this time.
Yeah, I had CC on the last podcast, and he talked about that night in Paris with you. How do you describe that night in Paris with CC?
Well, that night combined with that weekend was one of the most stressful weekends in my life. It was just, forgive the language, it was an absolute clusterfuck. Like charging through Paris, trying to get to the train station on time and things like that with Hito, who helped me out. Getting from Charles de Gaulle to Montparnasse, but yeah, it was so much disappointment. But after GWF going wrong as well, I had, you know, the kind of nightmare thought in my head is, how am I going to get there? Am I going to be able to get there? You know, is everything going to be all right? You know, I didn't want to have any problems, like for example the hotel, I've not checked in there, are they going to have problems with me there? It was just, my brain was going a million miles an hour, but thanks to the amazing generosity of CC, you know, him and his family taking me in for the night, sorting me out, massive credit and massive thanks to them. They certainly saved my bacon for sure. And my night in Paris, a bit more, it was certainly much more eventful than I hoped it would be, but it could have certainly been worse if it wasn't for him.
Yeah. Another big and fun event coming up not too long in the future is the Knockout Team tournament. Are you planning on taking part in this event?
Well, I'm planning on taking part in it, and it was initially planned as a mixed team, as it was 2 months ago. Speedy asked me to play as part of him, Nevermind, Ager, and I believe McPlyer, who's also a former A&E player, now in M&M Academy. We all just planned to play together as a bit of a kind of, with a bit of a meme name, I believe it's Business Tour, since they all play the Monopoly game together and things like that. So they asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, and I massively enjoyed the KOTT, a fantastic organised tournament by the E-Corp guys, and of course a lot of teams played it last time. There seems to be a great amount of interest going forward for this team, for this edition. The maps actually just came out on Sunday there, so I'm looking forward to getting seeing what kind of pace I can hit on the maps and seeing what kind of fun we can have as part of business team.
Yeah, so you're playing with Speedy and McPlaya.
Yeah, Speedy, McPla, Nevermind, and Ager is our full 4-man lineup. Oh, sorry, 5-man lineup, including myself.
Are you going for first place?
Ooh, we might be going for the first place, but there's some fantastically good teams going for that. There's a GO team with Carl Jr. and Pack, the destructive dynamic duo. There's the previous winners going together, Massa and Nugget. They are adding Spam to their lineup this time. There's a great KOTT lineup with like Kronos and Yo-Yo and stuff like that. So first might be a bit of a trouble, but I mean, we're certainly not going to lay down and let them take the first place. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, let's go for the surprise of the year 2018 there.
Exactly, yeah.
And talking about big events, we are now having the Trackmania Masters Team Cup playing out at the moment. The semifinals are coming up next weekend, I believe. How do you see the semifinals play out, and who do you see winning it all in the end?
So the semi-finals, if I'm right, were M&M versus Mixed Team and who was it again? Lioncast versus Venture. I think going forward with this, it is a bit of deja vu for M&M. They always seem to face the likes of Spam, Carl Jr. and Pack and things like that over their previous Expert and Dignitas lineups. They always seem to face them in the semi-finals or the quarter-finals, and well, they've came close very frequently. It's been a long time since they managed to beat them, so they certainly have been improving, but the mixed team lineup certainly one to behold. It's kind of who's who of the very top level of Trackmania, so it really depends how much the players train going forward, but I'm very interested to see who'll take that home going forward. The Lioncast and Venture one's a bit of a question mark. The Venture THE match was extremely close as well, but I know those teams had a bit of problem for preparation on that. Lioncast, I've not managed to see as much of their matches. They did get a kind of buy from Insects through, so again a bit of a question mark how prepared they are on like Circle of Life, the most recent map and things like that. I do slightly favour Venture going forward, as I would say they have a bit more depth in their lineup and they're a bit more of a known quantity. But for the final, I mean, it's hard to dispute mixed teams just raw power in their lineup. That's certainly, as I said, something to behold, but it's almost too close to call with how close these lineups are getting now. If Lioncast are certainly no one to count out. M&M, Venture, anyone can take it really.
Yeah. And now the fun part of the Trackmania Masters Team Cup starts, actually, when you see the best teams going at each other and not the 3-0 matches that you can predict miles ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Any other events you want to bring up before we close the show? Any events you're going to play or that you're going to follow closely?
Well, I'll pretty much follow every event closely. I will be participating, I believe, if I remember, in the A&C Cup, the second edition. I haven't trained fully for that. It's been one of those ones where whenever I've had an hour free, if I've not had a match to train for, I've just popped on, played a few of the matches, so I'm definitely either going to play that or at least follow it, as it's certainly a very nice competition organised by Lanex, and I believe Ceramane's been helping out a lot with that, along with the other staff members that they have there. So I'm definitely going to be taking a look at that and seeing what they have in store for us. The World Team Cup, which was announced by Harney as part of a kind of country tournament. If I have any hope in the world of participating for that, I will, but I've not really got much faith, considering UK doesn't really have a strong kind of background in Nations Cup tournaments, since of course we have had fantastic players throughout the year, of course, Pack, and shall I say myself, at the moment, if I'm so bold to say, but I mean, we've had historically amazing players like Saber, Leo, Jono, but we've never all been together at the same time, so it might be we might manage to scrape together some sort of UK lineup, or if not, I'll see if I can get myself in there. If any countries plan to adopt me, I'm open, come and get me. But we'll see what we can get done there. But otherwise, the Playoff Team Cup is well organised by Asura and things like that. I'll be playing in pretty much everything I can, so you can rely on me to be participating in almost any tournaments that will be coming up soon.
Yeah, and a True Talent Cup with bets as always, right?
Oh, of course, yes. The bets that I don't think either of us are yet to win.
Yeah, you won it one time, yeah.
Oh, well, one time, yeah.
I have yet to pay you, that's the problem.
Yeah, normally we've been denied by one person at the end.
Yeah.
We'll get there in the end.
Yeah, and I asked people on Twitter how long they wanted the episodes to be, and I think we are at the 30 minutes mark, if you're not already over. So I want to say thanks again for stepping up once again. It's your 5th time on the podcast, and you are now the leader of who has joined me the most, leading with 1 episode over Nelky. And one last thing for me, I want the people to go and follow Scotsman and Nelky on Twitch, because both of them are pretty close to getting 1,000 followers. Is there anything else you want to add before we close the show? Where should people follow you, and what should be your final word?
Well, my handle for YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook is TM Scotsman. So if anyone wants to come along, upload all the matches, of course, that I play in or spectate or anything like that, and I keep people up to date through the social medias. I just like to point out that's me get another +1 on Nelky now. You know I love you, Nelky. But and another thing I just wanted to mention is just more of a personal note to people. Again, a massive thanks to CC for helping me out in Gamers Assembly. Hito as well, that's much appreciated from the both of them, helping me actually get there in the first time. Without them it would have been, a million times harder as well. A massive thanks to Spam and Massa for, again, their help in Gamers Assembly. Massa, picking me up at Poitiers train station, driving me about everywhere, helping me out. Those guys were absolutely invaluable. They also helped me get home, which I can't thank them enough for, and I certainly owe them one for that. So again, massive thanks to those guys, and I hope that at least we all enjoyed our time together throughout GA. It was a pleasure going about with the rest of them and meeting everyone there, and getting to know everyone in GA 2018, since I actually managed to speak to some of the Frenchies this time instead of just avoiding them because I'm thinking they won't understand me. But yeah, thank you again for everyone making me feel so welcome at GA and within the scene, as I know I'm a bit of a new player and everyone's been kind of watching my casts and things like that. So it's been fantastic. But that's pretty much all I have to say for myself before it gets too soppy, before we get the handkerchiefs out and all that. But yeah, that's all, and thank you very much for having me on this podcast.
Yeah, that's it for today, and congratulations on your new team in M&M Gaming, Scotsman. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you, bye.